morning from Tocumen International Airport in Panama City. Today I'm heading back to LA after my wonderful trip in Colombia. I'm flying on Copa Air 360. Let's see what this flight experience is like. So far the flight is on time and I'll have about an hour before departure. It's a 15-minute walk from my gate in Terminal 1 to Gate 203 at Terminal 2. Thankfully I got to see some Copa special liveries. Terminal 2 is the newest terminal here and opened in June 2022. Thankfully, there are several moving walkways between these two terminals. Okay, so what's the deal with the gate area being roped off? For flights to the US, we have to clear security screening again. It didn't seem to matter that I had TSA pre-check. I had to go through regular screening like everybody else. By the way, once you get in, you can't really leave the gate area. This is very similar to what I experienced in Manila. I can't show you much of Terminal 2, but it looks really impressive. The ceiling is high and allows for some natural light. There's our plane, a 4-year-old Boeing 737 MAX 9. It's registered Hotel Papa 9904 Charlie Mike Papa. It arrived from Buenos Aires earlier this morning.
Mantenga a mano su pasaporte con el área de la visa, junto con su pase de abordar. Pasajeros que viajen con residencia, por favor mantener la mano durante el proceso de abordaje. Copa Airlines flight 360 with destination to LAX will be in our boarding process in 10 minutes. Once we begin, we'll be boarding by group number. We kindly ask you to come forward for boarding only when your group number has been called. Please have your boarding pass and passport available in the photo page for the verification at the gate. On behalf of Copa Airlines, excellence member and our partners, we thank you for traveling with us.
The inconsistency of the boarding groups is really confusing here. My flight from Bogota, I was in Group 2, and now I find myself in Group 5. Eventually, I just gave up and decided to board with the business class line in Group 4. I guess I could have boarded earlier, really. No one said anything as I got my boarding pass scanned and was allowed to get on the plane. Maybe next time I'll just board with business class. By the way, this felt the most disorganized out of the 4 flights that I've taken with Copa on this trip or any previous Copa flights that I've flown. There's our plane again. I'm about ready to take one of the longest flights in Copa's route network. About 6.5 hours from Panama City up to LAX. Welcome on board Copa Airlines 360 to LAX. This is actually my first ever daytime flight on the Boeing 737 MAX 9. I was a bit afraid that my row, 29, was that row that had no windows. Thankfully, that's row 27. I wanted a window seat even though this is a long flight, and you will see why a little bit later. So there are 126 seats in economy, and that's what my seat looks like. I like the color blue, and these leather seats look pretty nice. By the way, you might have seen that I used my coat for lower back support. Remember, there are no seatback TV screens. You can stream entertainment on the Copa Show Pass app. There's a little space towards the top to hold your passport, and each seat has a USB port. Remember, no power outlets. There's that holder. And there's the tray table. See what that looks like. As you can see, it's pretty decent size since the meals on Copa are pretty small. There are 17 inches of width, though today there's no one in the middle seat. There are 31 inches of pitch and 4 degrees of recline, and I can cross my legs. And we have adjustable headrests. And that's my view for the next 6.5 hours.
Carry-on luggage inside the overhead compartment and your personal items under the seat in front of you.
And there's 4 degrees of recline if you wanted to see what that looks like and how it affects your space.
Flights, we invite you to relax and enjoy the excellent service of boarding or choosing Copa Airlines. Enjoy the flight. Buen día, señores pasajeros. De la cabina de mando les saluda el capitán. Mi nombre es Boeing, compañía de tripulación. Sean todos bienvenidos a su vuelo 360. Con servicio a Los Ángeles, tiempo de vuelo aproximado de 6 horas 10 minutos. Estaremos volando inicialmente con altura de 32.000 pies. En breves minutos estaremos iniciando nuestro vuelo. Le invito a que se relajen y disfruten del excelente servicio a bordo. Gracias por escoger Copa Airlines. Bienvenidos a su vuelo.
Mayores arriba y menores enfrente, debajo de su asiento, para colaborar con lo que es la salida del vuelo lo más rápido posible, colaborar con las conexiones. Se le agradece con su cooperación.
La señal de los cinturones está encendida. Fasten seatbelt sign is on. O sinal do cinto está ativado.
Los grandes deberán ser guardados en su equipaje de mano. Si su dispositivo queda atrapado dentro del asiento, notifique inmediatamente a un miembro de la tripulación. For passengers, we have closed the boarding door. At this time, all portable electronic devices must be turned off or set to airplane mode. Large electronic devices should be stored in your carry-on bag. If an electronic device gets trapped in the seat, notify a crew member immediately. The fasten seatbelt sign is on.
El equipaje de mano debe ubicarse en los compartimientos superiores o debajo del asiento delantero.
As you may have noticed, I was able to stick my backpack in the space under the middle seat, so that opened up a little bit more space and legroom.
Luego colóquese la máscara de oxígeno sobre la nariz y la boca y respire normalmente. As an additional safety information, if the cabin pressure decreases, remove your personal mask, then place the oxygen mask over your nose and mouth, then breathe normally.
It wasn't as long a queue as the last time I flew out of here. So with that, enjoy the sound of the CFM International Leap 1B engines during our takeoff. So I really wanted a window seat today because I wanted to see the outside. We're going to pass over some of the most diverse landscapes in the world.
Before opening the overhead compartments, be aware that the content may have moved during takeoff. Deseamos extender una especial bienvenida a los miembros de nuestro programa de lealtad Connect Minds.
And right now we're passing right over the Panama Canal. So the person in the aisle got up to use the restroom. So I decided to get up as well so I can give you a quick tour of that. There's some mirrors, lots of them, and it's really tight in here. It's relatively clean now. Look how small that sink is. As you can see, about 30 minutes in, the in-flight service, breakfast, is about to begin. Today we'll get two choices for breakfast, either the eggs or the churros. I went with the churros. The portion size is small, of course. Our breakfast came with some yogurt and that scone. Let's see if I made a good choice for the breakfast. The churros look pretty decent, and it looks like there's some caramel sauce underneath. I also decided to get some orange juice and some water for my beverages. Of course, looks and tastes are two different things. I found this meal to be a bit of a disappointment. The scone was dry and flavorless, and the churros were a bit soggy and lacked flavor. The yogurt was probably the highlight of this meal. Don't expect any fancy meal in economy on Copa Airlines. Here's the in-flight magazine, Panorama de las Americas. Articles are in Spanish and English. It's your standard in-flight magazine if you choose not to stream entertainment or look out the window all flight long. Okay, so with that announcement, let's wrap up our trip report. The experience on Copa Airlines is very interesting to my opinion. I can't say it was great service or terrible service. It was very efficient, let's say. The boarding experience is confusing though. Maybe next time I fly Copa with Star Alliance Gold status, I'll just board with business class and see what happens. The food was lacking in size, substance, and flavors on all my flights. And it just is not enough for such a long flight, one meal. Especially a morning flight, and in my case a connecting flight, so I didn't have a chance to get any meal before my flight to LAX. In this case, I'm fine not having in-flight entertainment and that it's streaming. I probably should have been sleeping on this flight anyway. If you love diverse scenery, this is the flight for you. You get to see tropical places, volcanoes from a distance, deserts, mountains, beaches in the city. I'll say I would not fly Copa Airlines again, as it wasn't that bad, And actually, one of the things that I liked about Copa is that their mileage accrual is quite good for me to credit all the miles to Asiana. In this case, 100% of the miles, 3,479 between Bogota, Panama City, and Los Angeles. And with that, it'll help me keep my diamond status for 2 more years. So I'm Star Alliance Gold again. With that in mind, Copa's gonna leave me with one lasting impression. Just wait for it.
Jeez.
Well, that was probably the hardest landing I've ever experienced on all the flights I've ever taken. I don't know what these pilots were thinking. Anyway, with that crazy landing, welcome to Los Angeles, California, LAX.
Estimados pasajeros, sean bienvenidos a la ciudad de Los Ángeles. La hora local, 2:45 de la tarde. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Los Angeles. Local time, 12:45 p.m.
So with all the interesting experiences I had on Copa on this international trip, I wouldn't be absolutely thrilled flying them for my next adventure to Central or South America, but in terms of Star Alliance, I wouldn't or really can't dismiss them, and probably would have to choose them again because of their generous mileage accrual for Asiana over other choices in Star Alliance. But I'm definitely open to your suggestions if you want to suggest I fly another airline. All that to say, thank you everybody for joining me on this flight experience on Copa Airlines on my very first international trip since COVID. We'll see you next time.